Oh, just checking the blood pressure. You know, when you get to my age, the doctors are always telling you to check your blood pressure. I'm going to be talking this week, though, about checking your supply chain's blood pressure, coming right up. Okay, so in terms of our physical health, particularly as you get a little bit older, like me, the doctors are always telling you to check your blood pressure. So I check mine on a regular basis. And in fact, I have this gadget at home. Let me get it off because it's really tight. So why am I talking about checking blood pressure and supply chains? Well, I reckon, how good would it be if you had something like this to check your supply chain health every now and again, maybe every year or two? What are some of the things that people should be checking in their supply chain? So I'd love to hear your comments down below, but I'm going to share a few things this week that I think companies ought to regularly check. And unfortunately, you can't just get a monitor to do it. First of all, I would have as my number one your supply chain strategy. You probably don't need to check this every year, but most businesses are having a change in priority or focus fairly regularly. It could be through mergers and acquisitions, it could be new products, new markets, new customers, and sometimes the supply chain takes a little while to catch up. So we need to keep a really good eye on what the business requires of the supply chain to make sure that we can adjust the supply chain strategy. There's plenty of videos actually on this channel about supply chain strategy. I'll try and remember to put a couple of links down below. But if you just look at the playlists on the channel, there's a whole playlist about strategy. So strategy number one, really important. In no particular sequence from here, I think one that companies don't check enough is inventory. And of course, that's a really broad topic. You want to call it inventory management, sales and operations planning, whatever. But I think there's probably a couple of key areas in inventory. One is looking at the balance of inventory across your network. So have you got the A, Bs and Cs deployed correctly? Have you got the right level of A, Bs and Cs? Have you got a lot of slob stock? That's a very common term, slow and obsolete stock. Most businesses who don't keep on top of their inventory management do have that long tail of slob stock that just doesn't move. So regular checks will find that for you. Another area that I think companies probably don't check enough is their freight costs. And there's a few things there. Again, there's lots of videos on this channel about freight costs, but people tend to get hung up a little bit about looking at freight rates. So, how many dollars per ton, per pallet, per drop, that sort of thing. That the savings or the potential opportunities to improve your freight costs are not very often, well, someone's going to say they are frequently not in the rates. If you looked at, hundreds of companies that we've worked with over the years at Logistics Bureau, where we've managed to save them lots of money on freight, very few of that was around the freight rate. In other words, the amount of dollars per ton, per pallet or whatever, because it's a very competitive industry. Where the savings are is in the task. It's the operational task. So when you have a look at your freight costs, look at things like, are you paying the right sort of rate? Are you paying a full truckload, whereas you should be paying a pallet rate or a drop rate? Hourly rates, yeah, I haven't found many businesses where hourly rates for transport make sense, so that's a bit of an alarm bell. So have a look at the rate structure and the operational task itself, because that's really where freight costs can be reduced. The same kind of thing then in warehousing. That's definitely an area I would look at, every year or two. Looking at productivity, and if productivity isn't up to sort of benchmark standards or industry standards, start to question why that is. Is it something to do with the warehouse layout? Is it the way that you're picking in the warehouse? Is it the way that you've got product laid out in the warehouse? If you've never come across product slotting, we've got a video on that too. Just search the channel for product slotting. And if you've never come across that, it's a technique whereby you look at the frequency of demand and the volume of demand of certain products. So let's say, these are A lines and hundreds are going out the door every day, but these are C lines and they're not ordered so frequently. You put the less frequently ordered products further away from the main activities of receipt and dispatch, whereas the really, big sellers, you put those nearer the receipt and dispatch so that you've got less travel time through the warehouse. That's slotting in a nutshell. So just by looking at things like that, you can make enormous productivity gains in the warehouse. So Just thought this week I'd share a few things. There's probably dozens more that I could share, but those would be the key ones, I think. So just making sure the supply chain strategy is right, inventory definitely, maybe looking at freight costs, warehousing costs. Those are some of the big ticket items, I think, in most supply chains. But what do you think? I'd love to hear down below. What are some of the areas that you frequently check in your supply chain for health to make sure that, you know, the performance is good and the costs make sense? Just put in the comments down below what you check. And I will make a shameless plug before you go, because particularly over the last year or so during 2020, lots of people wanted help with this sort of thing. And here at Logistics Bureau, if you don't know Logistics Bureau, that's my day job. It's a management consulting company. But here at Logistics Bureau, we developed a number of sort of performance review or audit type tools, which help people see, you know, how they're performing against inventory best practice and against inventory norms, and this particular areas that they can improve on. So I'll put a link down below to that, and I think we've got 8 of those tools online at the moment. So there we go. Check. I'm trying not to show the logo of this because I'll probably get into trouble from YouTube for advertising products, but do you wish you could actually check your blood pressure in your supply chain? Well, there's ways of doing it. It's just a little bit more complicated than putting one of these on. See you next week. Thanks for watching. And if you're new to the channel, why not think about subscribing? Just hit that red button down there for subscribe. And if you hit the bell, you'll be notified every time we have a new video coming out. And we try to get them out every week on a Tuesday evening Sydney time. See you next time. Bye for now.